Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Wecruit. In this week's video we'll be talking about how we can help you obtain your first role in the mortgage industry as a mortgage advisor. I'm joined here by Dylan, who regularly helps trainee mortgage advisors and all different types of individuals within the financial services industry as well, who is able to pass on his advice and guidance to you. So Dylan, from your experience, what is the number one top tip you would give to someone looking to find their first role as a mortgage advisor?
So we often get people come to us and ask us for tips and guidance, and they've just started looking into the role of mortgage advisor. They think that's what they want to do, that they've wanted to do it for ages, but they don't know how to first get into it. I would firstly advise them to have a look at the qualification. So the certificate in mortgage advice and practice is the way they're going to get in to mortgage advice. So they need to look at how they want to achieve that, whether that be working through a company that provides them with training and the support, whether they want to go and self-fund it and self-study it, or whether they want to do a bit of both. And also, there's so many different types of mortgage advisors that if they know from the get-go what type, whether they want to be self-employed, employed, whether they want to work for a bank, whether they want to work for a broker, whether they want to be whole of market tied, whether they don't mind and they're just open-minded, I think it's best for them to have a plan. And then once they sort of have a plan, start studying and then sort of go from there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And like you said, there's so many options available, and speaking to a recruiter definitely helps with that. But like you've mentioned, being employed or being self-employed, being home-based or office-based, those come down to your personal circumstances, and you really need to then reflect as an individual what is right for you in your circumstances.
And sometimes it does take people that know they want to become a mortgage advisor but they don't know too much about it, just to pick up the phone and speak with one of us to know what the options are, to know the different types of mortgage advisors and how they get that job before they can go away and reflect and then decide whether, what route they want to then take.
Yeah, definitely, and that's why we're so keen to do these videos, because this is another resource that you can do in your own time. You touched on it earlier there about going to a company who will help you get your CeMAP. I definitely see that as an option, but having been in financial services recruitment now for nearly 10 years, I don't see that as available as much as it used to be. If I cast my mind back sort of 5 years ago, that was an option that was quite regularly available, but it's a lot less often now, and there's a reason for that, in that the mortgage industry has been fairly resilient to all the challenges it's faced with, like the pandemic and etc. A lot of companies have grown and they've utilised people coming into the industry for the first time, and it's meant that candidates who have gone out and self-studied their CeMAP are much more attractive, and so companies are no longer needing to offer the full sponsorship through the qualification because they have so many people who come with the full CeMAP.
Yeah.
And so if you're clinging on to the opportunity of someone paying you to get your CeMAP, it's going to be slim, because they're taking all the risks. They would potentially be employing you, they would potentially be funding your qualification, and you've got no experience, so they'll need to be giving you all that training. It's like, what's in it for them in comparison to someone who's gone out and self-studied? So my advice would be, definitely, if you're serious about it, self-study the full CeMAP, because your career options significantly open up when you've got CeMAP 1, 2 and 3, or equivalent with a CF1 and CF6.
And we see that directly, because if somebody came to me with exactly the same background, somebody fully CeMAP qualified and somebody that isn't fully CeMAP qualified, we have limited options for people that have not CeMAP qualified, and we've actually got probably 4 or 5 different options for somebody who is fully CeMAP qualified trainee with no experience in the mortgage industry, but because they've got that CeMAP, there's now options that we've currently got that we can speak with them about.
Dylan, if you don't mind, give us a little bit of a flavour as to the roles we have available. For me, one stands out that came out this week, new role, employed, leads provided. What's typically the most attractive thing to candidates you speak to for a trainee mortgage advisor role?
So yeah, you touched upon that role that came out just this week. They're looking to recruit over 10 new advisors, whether you've got a little bit of experience or no experience at all. As long as you've got your CeMAP, like we were just speaking about before, as long as you've got CeMAP, they'll be interested in speaking with you. You've got to have the right sort of attitude, but it's employed. You've got a salary of between 24 and 26.
Yep.
If you've got no experience, and that could potentially go up to 28 if you've got some experience within the mortgage industry. If you're in a hotspot area, which is Bristol, Bath, Oxford, Gloucester, so that south west area, and also sort of London, Kent, Surrey, that sort of patch. If you're in one of those, then you can have access to their offices. It's an estate agency branch, and you're going to have an electronic diary system where you get 8 meetings booked into your diary. You don't have to worry about where the next lead is coming from. There's no self-generation sort of pressure. Obviously, if you can bring it, that's amazing, but there's no pressure on you for that. It's just you've got this 8 meetings a week. They typically make 2 or 3 mortgages per week as well, so they are quite good leads in terms of a trainee, and it's for it's for an up and coming company. That's for one of the UK's leading networks. They provide second to none training that can really sort of give you a head start in the mortgage industry, and it's home based. If you're in one of their patches, which is either southwest or sort of London, then you have access to their branches as well. It's a fantastic company. It's 100% owned by a charitable trust. So some of their profits go back into the community as well. Education, shelter, employment. It's a fantastic role. The company's really great.
Okay, that's really fantastic to hear all those points about that role. The other thing we quite like about this company is the speed they're working with as well. So I'm aware you've already put 3 candidates in since this role was released, only 48 hours ago, and all 3 candidates have been had a telephone interview and are invited on Monday to have their first interview. Yep. So that's really fantastic to see that level of speed as well, because that's an important factor to you as a candidate when looking at jobs. Is, are you going to be interviewed quickly?
So quite a few of these roles that are looking at bringing on trainee mortgage advisors are looking for the candidates to work on Saturdays. Now I completely understand why somebody wouldn't want to work on a Saturday, but can you just shed a little insight as to why it's important to work on Saturdays for them?
Yeah, definitely. I think what you've got to consider when you are a trainee mortgage advisor is you need to expose yourself to as many available opportunities to get in front of someone to then be able to discuss their mortgage needs and protection as well. Now, some of the models within as trainee mortgage advisors are estate agency. Either you work within the estate agency business or you're connected to an estate agency as a sort of relationship partner. Estate agency's busiest day is a Saturday, and so if you're there in the branch, present with the sales negotiators and lettings negotiators, you've got opportunity to speak to lots of potential prospects that you don't have to do the mortgage advice there and then on that Saturday, but you can make yourself aware of the opportunities, build that rapport, and then book in a meeting for the following week. And so it can often be that you do a third of your appointments on that Saturday alone. And so if you're hesitant about working those Saturdays, you're going to miss a vast amount of business. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to have to work a Saturday forever potentially, because during your first stage as a trainee mortgage advisor, it requires sort of 2 years of real hard graft to build up your portfolio of clients that come back to you time and time again, either because they're moving on to the next house, they want to remortgage because they want to do something, or their fixed term is coming up to end and it needs remortgaging anyway. And so it doesn't mean you're going to have to do it forever, because then you'll have all those remortgages coming through that is supplemented with then the new business as well. So it's not a forever thing, but it can give you the best possible chance.
Yeah.
But like you said, I get it, some people don't want to do it or can't do it because, I don't know, they play sport professionally or semi-professionally, or that's when they don't have any childcare, so they need to be the ones doing it. So that you've always then got the option of self-employed as well, where you are very much more your own boss and you can dictate the hours you do want to work. One thing I particularly see from candidates when they talk about self-employed is there's an assumption that self-employed means you've got to self-generate all your business. Yeah. Is that an assumption you see as well?
Yeah, I do see that a lot, and when we've got a few roles where actually you can be self-employed, get again second to none training, and then have flexibility over your diary of the hours you work, but still have some leads given to you. When I give that option to people, suddenly they are open to being self-employed, because I completely understand. Again, going into a brand new industry and having to self-generate all your own business, whilst not earning very much, you know, not being in the right sort of location, having to work from home, it can be very scary for them. And yeah, I completely understand that. But where we do have the roles, you know, we have a really good contract with one of the UK's leading networks, and because of that we've got a few companies within that, and one of the companies we've got is through that network. They provide you really great training program, and then once you're up and running, you get ongoing sort of mentoring support, you get given some leads, but you still get the flexibility of being self-employed. You get to work from home, get to sort of work whatever hours that you require around your client's needs. That's another great opportunity for somebody that, you know, needs to be, you know, a little bit more flexible, and can't be working from an office all the time.
Well, hopefully this video has been helpful to you to learn more about tips when getting your first mortgage advisor job. For me, 3 takeaways are: if you're serious about getting into the mortgage advisor industry, do really push yourself to self-study your CeMAP 1, 2 and 3 and get that as quickly as you can, because that opens up so many more opportunities for you. However, you're more than welcome to speak to us in advance of you getting the full CeMAP, so that we can give you advice and potentially even start the ball rolling with a role prior to you getting that full CeMAP. But it definitely would require a minimum CeMAP 1 for that to happen. And then the other thing is, there's a whole variety of employed, self-employed, home-based, office-based, hybrid, leads provided, no leads provided, opportunities out there. Before you speak to us, have a little think about what suits your circumstances. Do you have a network of people you can leverage? Do you need to be home-based, or can you actually work from an office, because you're then going to bounce ideas off from each other? Can you afford to go self-employed, etc, etc. Have a little think what suits your circumstances, and don't have to pigeonhole it to one exact thing, but just let us know what you're truly looking for, and then whether you are open-minded or not, because we can look at other opportunities at the same time. Hopefully this has been useful to you. Please feel free to give it a like and a subscribe, because we've got plenty more content like this to come.